Hello, this is a review for the midterm for linking the brain, mind, teaching, and learning. This is EDTC 631. In this particular semester, I'm presenting this information in session 4, but don't let that throw you. If you are taking this course under another semester and it's in a different session, that's fine. Content is still similar. In terms of preparing for your midterm, your first step is to submit a midterm topic, and you're going to do that through Google Classroom. There is more information about that later on in the Google Classroom, but I want to jump into the midterm topic and the details. Now, these two links are the same exact thing. So let me jump in here to the midterm specific page. Now, in this particular case, we are looking at the fall 2018 midterm rubric. I'm going to open this in a new tab, and particularly for our students who are not traditional educators, your rubric is very important to the success of your midterm. The way the rubric sets up is across the top in this particular case is you have a variety of different strands. This first one represents a single strand, which is the general information setting the state. Your objective is to get all the way up to 4 points in this particular strand. And I'm going to actually zoom in a little bit more so you can see it more clearly. If you present in your midterm the lesson plan and you identify the target audience, you would get 1 point. If in your midterm you present the 1 point, which is the lesson plan, target audience, and the goals and objectives, you would get 2 points. For 3 points, you would have to present the target audience, the goals, the objectives, and the defined outcomes. And in order to get 4 points on this, you would have to do everything in box 1, 2, 3, and 4. Over here to the right-hand side is a summary of the content that I'm looking for in order to get a 4 out of this top strand. In order to get a 4 out of this strand, which deals with TPAC, as well as some other information teaching strategies, you're going to have to address general teaching strategies. Then you're going to have to address sense and meaning and primacy recency and TPAC. And going into box 3, you need to do both box 1 and 2 and provide some examples of why they were used. You need to explain why they were used, and you need to give some examples. Similar with your technology strand, you have to get all the way to a box 4 over here on the SAMR model. Similar to this strand on your brain research, your objective is to cover all of this content in your brain research area, getting all the way to the top where you want to provide examples of how your lesson addresses each of those areas. Now, some of these other pieces are also important. For example, you do have to submit, in addition to your presentation of either Google Slide or Prezi, you do need to do a written portion of your midterm. So that is your rubric. And again, the objective here is to get everything in this far right column done within that 10-minute presentation. And then this particular piece does explain to you that your midterm is a 10-minute presentation explaining the points of a classroom lesson. You are not going to actually teach this particular lesson. Rather, you're going to discuss the lesson, and you're going to explain to us how each of the activities in your lesson meet each of the pieces that are over here in this far right column. So your objective is to try to get to 4 points on each and every one of these strands. So what this is a session here, or excuse me, a listing here of all of the different sessions that you will have been exposed to these major concepts. So if you're not sure where in your instruction you need to go back to find that information, that's going to be helpful for you there. In terms of your tips for success, here I go back over the fact that your presentation is 10 minutes long. It's being turned in electronically. The only thing that's different from this point forward, and I'll change it by the time you get here, is you're not going to hand your printed notes to your instructor, but rather you are going to go ahead and link it to your MSCT portfolio. You need to address all of the strands of the course, which are the brainy bits, technology, and pedagogy. So you're going to take a look at every single one of those pieces. Down here are presentation tips. Remember that this is a live presentation. And so those are a couple of little tips on how to handle that 10-minute presentation. Next, what I want to do is get into these midterm exemplars, and I'm going to go ahead and open up another tab. I'm going to drag that out, and I'm going to bring that up nice and large. So what I want to do here basically is I want to somewhat kind of show you up against the rubric and take a look at some of the exemplars. Now the exemplars have been updated, and the important part about the exemplars, excuse that other window, the important part about the exemplars is while these are listed here as exemplars, note that none of them were perfect. And so that's very important to understand, that when you're comparing these exemplars up against the rubric, you always want to refer to the rubric. And while these are very good exemplars, again, they are not perfect. The other thing you need to know is that the technology that was used here could have been a mixture between Prezi, it could have been a proprietary system that we haven't really studied in here, it could be Google Slides. All of those are perfectly good to go. I'm going to go ahead and just show you a couple of these samples here. I'm looking at this first student, and if you see here, they've got their portfolio and they've got a link to their midterm, and this is the midterm, and this is a printed example of what they are saying during the midterm. So your notes are a direct reflection of what you are saying in the middle of your midterm. So I'm going to expand those notes out a little bit. And this is a midterm that was done back in 2017. But in this particular case, these chunks of information are exactly what this person is talking about when they are presenting this particular presentation. So once again, let me split these out so we can kind of line them up side by side so you can get a sense of what's being said at the same time. So in this particular presentation, let me squeegee that down a little bit more, right? Taking a look at the written notes as well as the presentation over here, as well as the rubric. Notice that for 1 point, this person would get 1 point if they mention the target audience. So here in their notes, they're talking about the target audience of this particular piece. And if we take a look at this, this is an introduction slide. And here is the target audience of this particular presentation. Next, the goals, content, objectives. So here for the second point, this person is talking about the goals and content objectives. And similar here in box 2 for 2 points, they will have done the target audience and they will have done the goals and objectives. So this is an example of a midterm that very closely follows the rubric. And that's exactly what your objective is here as well. I'm going to back out of this particular example and I'm going to go back a couple steps and I'm going to show you a couple of other midterms. I'm going to show you a midterm from a student who wasn't a traditional educator, but nevertheless did very well on the midterm. I'm going to close this out. And She chose in her notes presentation to do something similar, but she's labeling it slide 1, 2, 3, 4. And if we take a look at her midterm presentation over here, she did hers in Prezi as well, which is perfectly acceptable. But again, her content is very closely following. Here's her target audience. Here's her goals and objectives. Here's her performance objectives. Here's her evaluation and techniques. And once again, what she is talking about and what she's saying at the very same time is exactly the content that she has listed here in her written portion. So the written portion becomes very much a script for your actual presentation. So I'm going to back out of that one as an example. And I'm going to jump into another presentation, another midterm. And in this particular case, this one was done in Google, and the layout of the notes is significantly different. Both of the styles that you've seen so far are perfectly acceptable. So here, this particular presentation is done in Google. And if we take a look here, this is the portion of what he is saying over here in terms of his slides. And he's chosen to give image credits right directly within his notes. If I take a look here, here are his goals. Oops, let me go back on that. I apologize. Here's his goals. Here's his content objectives. If I were to move forward, here's his evaluation and assessment. And again, if I'm taking a look at the rubric, I'm basically marching straight across until I get to that 4-pointer. And then I'm going to go ahead and go on to the next portion, which in this case, he's addressing sense and meaning. He's addressing primacy, recency. Those are in the sense and meaning area and the primacy, recency. And he should have a slide on TPAC. And again, as you're going through these presentation pieces here, all of the content that is over here in his written work are exactly the things that he is saying at the same time that he is working in this presentation. So during the 10-minute presentation, your objective, once again, is to address all of these different strands, getting as much as you can into the 4-point area so that you can get a grade that you're proud of. I hope this helps in terms of your presentation for your midterm and developing the details on your midterm. Please ask any questions should you have them. These exemplars are online for you to go ahead and take a look at any given time. And again, hope this helps.